My tardiness. Hello. How are y'all this Wednesday? How are you this Wednesday? I am good. I'm good. And I hope that you are good too. So, we're going to get into my topic. Tell me how you feel. Actually, let me tell you how I feel. I feel motivated. That's the word. You got to use feeling words. Got to use feeling words. Good is not a feeling word. It's a condition, but it's not a feeling word. So I feel motivated today. I hope you all feel good today too. So talk to me. We're going to be talking about the consequences of some of our actions and how do we kind of get to that decision making process. And I'm going to tell you why I decided to talk about that. And the title is basically GIGO, which stands for garbage in, garbage out. So depending on the method and how you come to your decision making is going to have a lot to do with the outcome, and that will be whatever the consequence is. So y'all, let me tell you a little bit about that. We're gonna talk about that, but real quick. I am excited because I'm getting off this and I'm going to be watching the number one team in the East and the number one team in the West as far as basketball is concerned, Philadelphia in the East and the Lakers in the West. So I'm excited about that game. Can't wait to get off so I can check it out. So let me get into my topic. So, and the reason why let me tell you how I got to this topic. I don't know about you all, but there has been a lot of things just like from a public standpoint that have been taking place with people. Excuse me, because I think I don't put something on my eyelashes on my hand. I'm gonna make this work here. And those consequences have been very detrimental. The consequences, and so I was thinking about like what exactly is it that people are thinking when they make decisions, or like what's going on, because these consequences are so great, right? Like it takes one split second before a decision is made that can completely change the course of your life. And of course, I have experience with that, and we're going to talk a little bit about more of immediate and imminent type of decision making, and then ones that require you to take some time. They're delayed or they're out into the future. So based on whatever decision you make, there's a delayed effect and or outcome. So I kind of wanted to talk about that with you all, and it's important because we are in a heavily influenced social media, society, and so there's a lot of content that's soundbited, and a lot of things that are coming in, like you'll see something happen and then you kind of hear about the consequence, or it doesn't necessarily display the consequence. And then what happens is young people, being that they're still impressionable and still growing and learning and having their own challenges, don't necessarily connect a cause to effect, which is basically one of the universal laws, cause and effect. And kind of want to talk about the conversations that I've had with my kids and some of the questions I've asked them, and when they were in their teenage years, to kind of help them through the cause and effect, because oftentimes we don't necessarily see the effect happen right away, and then some of them do, and then some of them have legs and they grow. So we'll get into that. So basically, the consequences are basically in a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a result or an effect of a condition or an action, right? And as I mentioned, it's a universal law, and so nobody is out of cause and effect. We all gonna experience, cause and effect. And I do want you to know that most of us, on average, make 35,000 decisions a day. And some of them are subconscious and some of them are conscious. And so there's like that kind of subconscious thing that's going to the programming, things we just do: eat, where to go, what to eat, where I need to be, what I want to do for work, how do I approach the job that I do. And it's kind of subconscious because we made a habit of doing it. So it's something that we don't really need to give a lot of thought to. And then there's things that we just have to really make some really tough decisions and really think it through. And sometimes we don't always have the amount of time necessary to be able to do it, but we'll get into that. But I just thought that that was something that was interesting in terms of a statistic. So how do you approach your decision making? I'm gonna tell you a little bit about how I approach it. So I'm usually thinking about, is it just about me? Is it only going to affect me? And depending on what I get out of that is probably going to drive how I make that decision. So it's more or less an individual standpoint. Then there's decisions that I have to make, obviously, as a parent. It would just be one example where it's going to affect other people, my kids, my family, people close to me, or whatever the case may be, depending on what I do, being a life coach, being a mentor, and sometimes a lot of writing. I am thinking about the content because it does have a ripple effect. So that's usually how I'm thinking about the decision. Then I'm thinking about how much knowledge I have about it. How much do I know? Do I need to get more information? What if I just don't know? And how do I go about attaining the information I need? And if I don't have the information, when I do go to get the information, am I looking at facts? Am I looking for information that's favorable to me? Am I looking at the wrong information? And then once I have it and I think I'm ready to make a decision, like making a decision, like just don't have information and then procrastinate and don't make a decision. So it just depends on the decision, right? So the other thing is the time. How much time do I have? When do I need to make it by? Is it, like I said, immediate? Do I need to do something right now? Is it imminent? Do I need to act immediately because I have no time to really, so maybe that's more preemptive, reflex, reaction type of decision making. And then I decide at that point, if I have more time, then I will give myself more time to kind of think it through, and make sure I'm not going off of impulse and things like that. And then, of course, experience is like the last thing. Do I have experience with it, which I could look back into or think about it like, I gotta, I probably don't want to do that because I done been there before. And so that's probably not the best way to go. And if I don't have the experience, I'll talk a little bit about that, but basically who do I have within my influence circle that I can speak to, a mentor, an elder, a family member, a trusted peer. I don't know if you got a counselor, maybe you guys use your spiritual leaders. I don't know, but that's typically what I may do if I need to get help with something. And usually that's something that probably has it's a weighted decision. So it carries a lot of weight, right? And all of that's going to matter on what kind of people those are. I'm hoping if it's somebody within your influence, that they're people that have good character and have solid decision track record, a track record of solid decisions, I should say. And then, let's see. I'm also mindful, and then we'll get into that. So let me just get back to the story. So I'm going to tell you about a time there was an impulse. And this is when I was on my ankle monitor. So mind you, I'm already on ankle monitor. This is shortly after, I got out and I'm on ankle monitor. So I got 2 years of ankle monitor, right? And I'm already like having to go and do a schedule every week for 7 days of 24 hours out of a day, turn that in the week before it happens and have this device on my ankle, for which it was costing quite a bit to be monitored. So I go into the gas station because I literally have to say, okay, I can stop at a gas station and in there I can get me something to drink. I'm gonna get me a Gatorade, and I'm walking in, no big deal. And this lady just crosses across me, like literally walks in front of me, and we bumped into each other and she just kept going. Like I didn't even exist. And so, the first response is, okay, my bad, and she didn't say anything. So what's the next thing? Excuse you. That's usually how that goes. And I don't know what kind of day she was having, but she began to just be, disrespectful in her tone, told me, excuse me, and I was like, well, I said, excuse me. You didn't say anything. He's going to knock me over. You should have been in my way. And this is now we're inside the gas station. and we're in front of the drink. So we ain't I'm not the only person there. She's not the only person there. There's other people in there. And you know how it kind of you see people having like this conversation, and you hear it, and then you hear the words and the tone, and it makes you turn and look at what's going on. So now they're looking like, oh, like, who's she talking to? She talking to you. So they give me that look because she continued to talk. And I could feel my chest on fire. I could feel my chest on fire because at this point I wasn't even talking anymore. I had just like, I ain't finna engage. And she continued to talk and be disrespectful and then be loud. So I'm a whole human being. But what I do know is that I still have a choice. And so my choice was during the gas, during the Gatorade, during my thirst. I'm finna go. And I, honest to God, I left. I ain't get gas. I ain't get no. I did not. I hit pass go. And that was a decision I made because I didn't know how far she was willing to go. And I also am very aware that of myself. And one of the things I don't really enjoy doing is the tongue wrestling with strangers. I'll get into a discussion, a discord, a debate with people that I love or care about, and I know and care about me, because we can have that. But when it's that level of we don't know each other, we don't know what we're capable of. I don't have that information. I don't know where her state of mind is, nor does she know what my state of mind is. And so that was a decision I made. Here's the thing, y'all. It's too many of us out here literally getting into things and making impulse decisions. And people are being killed and people are going to jail. And it is happening at such, like, I hear about it, I want to say several times, just from personal people that I know. I don't have to even get on social media to see it. It is happening in day-to-day life. And so I really wanted to talk about that because I think we really need to have conversations with, people close to us, and then mostly the way we talk to our kids about these things when they're little. Like with my 10-year-old, we start having conversations about these type of things in a way or on the level that she can understand. So by the time that she's older, then those consequences are a lot more severe, and she's older, and the responsibility of that consequence is a heavy price to pay. She's already had some conversations and perhaps maybe even some experience from mistakes. And I'm sharing this with you because I'm not batting 1,000. My field goal range on mistakes is not like, or the lack of mistakes is not at like 100%. I do not always get it right. And I know I'm not the only one. And I know that I am not the only one who didn't get it right, learned a lesson. I was like, I'm not going to do that again. And also from that experience has been able to talk to somebody else. Right. So that's the reason why I wanted to talk about it, because I think somebody sent me something today. Football player has been arrested for domestic violence. At this point, I can tell you that didn't just start. And so now this lady is, black and bloody, pictures, was in the hospital. You got a whole career. You about is getting ready to go right on down that drain, depending. But there's consequences for that. And so, excuse me, I wanted to figure out how you approach it and just kind of share with you how I approach it. And then maybe we can just have a conversation about what we tell our kids, more importantly, what we show them, because a lot of that popping off and decision making is got to do with the environment for which they learn some of this behavior. And then sometimes it's just them growing up. Sometimes you just got to figure out what your level is, like who you are, I think is important. Because like once you have an idea of what, who you are and like what you're about, you'll better have an idea of what you need to avoid ahead of time, which is to prevent, anything that could have an adverse, costly, negative, irreversible, consequence. And so that is the reason why I really wanted to talk about it. Y'all tell me about you all's stories about it. If it if you've made a decision, maybe recently, where you knew that it could have had a bad consequence. It could not have, it could have been anything. It could have been anything. And I'm specifically talking about those in which violence occurs, because that's really a place that's important to me, the prevention of that. And I believe having conversations, realistic conversations about these things, go a long way, because then it doesn't seem abstract, right? And I think with a lot of the, when you approach it, or when I approach it, when we approach it, it's got to be, is it good for me? Is what's on the other side of that? Is it good for me? Is it what I want? Because sometimes your decision isn't always what you want, but it's the best decision. And then some of the decisions you need to make based off what you want to prevent something else. Does it matter to me that it affects that the effect of my choices intangible or tangible? So sometimes it's not a tangible outcome. Sometimes that consequence isn't tangible. You can't taste, touch, feel, hear, see, you know what I mean? Because it's emotional, and those things you can't always see, right? But then there's that tangible, the things that once this happens to this thing, the outcome is this particular consequence. And that is something that you can see, you can feel, you can touch, you can hear. It is tangible, right? So you don't always have the right time. You don't always have enough time, real time, to make those decisions, but those are things to think about when we're talking about stuff with our kids. When we're thinking about decisions that affect other people in groups, is it good for others? And I think the other question is, do I even care? And I think that's where we are missing it a lot, because we're very self-absorbed. At this point, I think we all have a self-centeredness about us, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think the ego is necessary, but not to be overpowering. So you have to be concerned about self, but not to the detriment that when we make choices, they're affecting other people, again, in a way. So just something to think about. So Gloria said, I told my sons I'm not a B. So when folks say that about your mom, they want to get you in trouble. Okay. She says she tells them to walk away. You know me better and before anyone in the streets. And that's a lot of things. That's a good point, Gloria. Thank you for sharing that, because a lot of people done got into some fights about somebody saying something about their mom, and it's like, it's people dead and in jail, y'all, about somebody saying something about their mom. And to this day. And I see some of the content on social media that'll be like, I don't play about it. And I get you, because you don't want anybody harming, or being harmful towards your loved ones. But then there's that distinction between the words and them physically doing something, or you know what I mean? That's another level. And those are things that we really need to differentiate when we're having conversations with our kids, because I'm gonna tell y'all another story. This is me being vulnerable and transparent, y'all. I have literally told at one time an individual, because it was related to my kids. I was like, I'll burn Jacksonville down. Sounds very coming out my mouth. That was my thought process in terms of sending the message of severity. But y'all know I ain't literally gonna burn it down. But it probably be some places gonna catch on fire if something happened, like to my kids to that level. So this is just my thought process. But when kids, my 10-year-old hears that, it's a possibility she's thinking I'm out there with a torch, and that's probably what she needs to do. So we have to make sure we have those conversations with our kids, right? And the other thing is experience, and watching. If you haven't experienced it, you can make a decision based on the outcome of somebody else's experience. And then that is also a pretty good deterrent, sometimes, for making the better option or better choice or wiser choice. And that is a lot of the reasons why I share my stories. And I talk a lot more about domestic violence or interpersonal violence and violence prevention in general, because everybody knows about my particular case, and there's always choices prior to that led to before those incidents happen, before that escalation happens. And it's important that we, excuse me, that we have conversations about that, because it's always the after effect that we're dealing with. And then what happens is because of the way our system, our penal system is set up, it's penal, and so then I'm now an offense to the state, and there's never really a resolution with the individual, and so there's no restorative practice there, and so to prevent that, we have conversations about choices and consequences and conflict resolution, and we have those conversations with our kids, and I think that's also super duper important. I'm gonna tell y'all something I asked my kids as they got older. I've asked them, as I'm asking my 10-year-old these questions now. So let me tell you some of the things I asked as they started to say they were going to do something or talk to me about doing something or was considering doing something. So questions that I have asked is, you know, who's all involved? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is it just you this is going to affect, or is this something that's a group thing? Is how is this going to affect other people? And typically, if they know the people that it's going to affect, then kind of give an idea like of what you think the outcome is going to be. Also, are you willing to live with that? I've asked them that. I've also asked them, after I asked them, are they sure? Are they willing to die about it? Depending on what it is. I have asked that question. I have asked them that question several times, and my children can tell you that. You willing to die about it is what I say. And it could be something, super, you know what I mean, a big deal, and it could be just a little something. And they look at me like, oh, I'm willing to die about it. I'm like, yeah, are you that sure, right? And that is me forcing them to think about the weight of their decisions, even if they think they are small and don't have an impact, because for every action, there's a just and equal reaction. It's just the way it is. It is the natural law of cause and effect. And so I wanted them to start to get an idea about how to approach situations, how to think through and make choices and really weigh what that outcome, potential outcome or the consequence would be. And I also asked them about their accountability partners or people that hold them accountable within their circle of influence. And that's important because if you have bandwagoners, if you have co-signers that enable you and don't be like, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm gonna come get you. Don't do that. Come over here. Don't do that. If you don't have somebody that you can get you to talk you off the ledge, get someone. That's all I'm gonna say. Just get somebody. You can be, let me call this, you know what I mean? Because this is me trying to prevent us from having these issues, and then prevent us from having to get law enforcement involved. And this is when we're talking about interpersonal violence, issues and things like that. That's another thing. If you are around people who make risky decisions, that are potentially harmful, they are somebody who like when stuff goes down, it's a high risk that they may do something unpredictable. You might want to check your influence circle. You might want to figure out who your company is, because there's a lot of people, dead or in jail behind somebody else's stuff that really don't have anything to do with them. So that's something that we also want to consider when we're talking with, our children, and even just now, because I'm very familiar with a situation with an individual who literally, them and somebody else made threats on Facebook and then went to act on them, did in fact act on them by pulling out going to their house, pulling out a firearm, threatening them, didn't shoot it. The person went into the house. They then broke the windows out of these people's houses as they called the police. Like that, you see what I'm saying? It's like you had time to think about that. You had somebody with you that thought it was a good idea. They did get picked up, and now you got a situation with consequences, and this is what I call this thing that grows legs, because now you're dealing with a series of consequences that are irreversible, some going to be costly, definitely a negative, and then it's not only have affected you, the individual who did it, it's also affected the person that was the victim or of that offense. These individuals have family So they are also affected. And those family members of them would be like children and things like that. That's the ripple effect. So that's the reverb of consequences and choices that are not made and don't have a decision process that we continue to follow so that we can make better decisions, right? So that's basically all I wanted to. It's all over everywhere. Somebody was just mentioning something about Duval. I don't know if you heard about the story in Harlem where a gentleman harassed a lady who was going to buy. She getting off work. She goes into the store, buys her a bottle of wine. They offer to pay. She's like, "Yeah, I'm good." She leaves out, and for whatever reason, a group of gentlemen decided they would beat up this woman, bite her on her face, kick her, and steal her phone. A bunch of guys. You see what I'm saying? Like this is all over the place. So now the reverb of that is she's injured. They're looking for them. Now the community wants stricter laws, which that's a whole nother reverb, right? Because we already have laws in place for these type of incidences. You see what I'm saying? So really be thinking about, the choices we're making and helping walk people through, the actual, is it you or is anybody else? How much information do you have, or are you working with, or you're not working with anything? How much time do you have to make this decision? And what is your experience? And do you know anybody with some experience? So that's all I got. I'm getting ready to watch this game. Y'all, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Share it with somebody because people really need to think about that and really think about your friends, think about your people who enable, think about your accountability people. And the last one is codependency. If you're making decisions that are harmful to you to benefit or someone else, and you do that often, that's a codependency, then that's not healthy. To your emotional or psychological state of being to be the detriment in the decision you make for the benefit of somebody else or to prevent somebody else from, having some issue with you, like people pleasing. So be careful of that too. That's the other thing I wanted to add about your circle. All right. Y'all have a good night. And remember to support Diamonds Ford, looking to get her out of jail real soon. And you can go to Justice for Diamonds and check that out. And you all have a lovely Wednesday. Peace out.